She thought she hated him. She said it to his face. But what she truly hated was herself for still needing him. Infidelity doesn't always start in someone else's bed. It begins the moment emotional distance becomes more comforting than closeness. And when he finally walked out without saying a word, it wasn't the silence that broke her, it was the realization that he had finally heard her and believed her. She clung to bitterness like it would save her. But empty sheets don't lie, and when his name stopped showing up on her phone, she searched for him in places she swore she'd never look: his friends, his Instagram stories, even the girl he once warned her about. Because the worst kind of betrayal is not being cheated on, it's realizing you pushed him toward the one who welcomed what you rejected. And now, she watches him smile where she once rolled her eyes. I told him I couldn't stand him anymore. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, just looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You disgust me." He didn't argue, didn't ask why, didn't beg, he just left quiet. Like I wasn't worth a fight. What I didn't tell him was that I was already emotionally gone. I had been texting someone else. Nothing physical, but every vulnerable message I sent to that man should have been sent to the man I once vowed forever to. But it felt easier, safer. He didn't know my flaws yet. He laughed at all the things my husband stopped noticing, and I fed off that. I was addicted to being adored again. But when my husband walked out, he didn't slam the door. He closed it gently, like he was still protecting me from the noise. The silence after was unbearable. You'd think it would feel like freedom, but it felt like withdrawal. I missed his cold coffee, his half-laughed jokes, the way he always put his hand on the small of my back when we crossed the street. So I reached out, no reply. Then I saw her, the girl from his office, the one I used to joke was his work wife. Now she's his real one. She knows the version of him I slowly starved of affection. The version I pushed away every time I rolled my eyes at his excitement, or made him feel foolish for needing closeness. They're happy now. And me, I'm left with the man I thought I wanted, only to discover he was just an echo of my resentment. I told him I couldn't stand him, but the truth is, he was the only one who ever truly stood by me. And I let him go before I ever gave him the truth. She didn't cheat, not with her body at least, but her heart had started to lean elsewhere. The texts were friendly, until they weren't. A few emojis too many. A few compliments too intimate. That's how it always starts, not in bed sheets. In casual moments we pretend don't matter, but they do, because emotional cheating doesn't announce itself, it slips in through the cracks where real conversations used to live. She didn't mean to drift, but she did, because the silence at home got louder than the noise in her head. Every time she tried to speak, he looked tired, so she stopped trying, stopped asking for things he couldn't give anymore. Affection, curiosity, presence, and one day, someone else gave it freely. So she listened, and worse. She responded. Her husband noticed the distance, but not the reason. He assumed it was stress, or hormones. He brushed it off with, "You've been different lately," but never asked, different how. He didn't want the truth, and she didn't want to say it. So resentment filled the air between them, thick, unspoken. Daily, then came the night she said it, out loud, "I can't stand you." She said it not to hurt him, but to justify what she was already feeling inside. She needed him to be the villain, because if he was, then she wasn't. He didn't fight back, didn't yell, didn't ask why. He just looked at her, not with anger, but with that kind of quiet sadness that says, "I've already lost you." He walked out without a word, no suitcase, no questions, no closure, just gone, and in that moment, her anger had nothing left to cling to. She waited for a message, an argument, a door slam, but none came, because he'd finally heard her, not her words, her distance, her absence, the version of her that smiled at someone else's texts, but rolled her eyes at his attempts to connect. That's when the haunting started, not ghosts, memories. They don't scream, they whisper. In the grocery aisle when she sees his favorite coffee. In the drawer with the receipts he used to save just in case. In the songs that once played during long car rides, now silent, She replayed their last months together like a crime scene, looking for what she missed, what he missed. She blamed him for not being enough. But deep down, she knew she hadn't given him much to hold on to either. She had emotionally exited before he even had a chance to fix it. And the worst part, she still loved him, not the new version, the old one, the one who would surprise her with her favorite snack just because, the one who'd listen to her ramble and call it beautiful. She pushed that man away because she was hurting, and instead of healing together, she chose to feel seen elsewhere. But being seen isn't the same as being loved, and being desired isn't the same as being understood. Now she knows that. He moved on, not fast, but steadily, and when she saw his new happiness, it broke her. Not because he was better off, but because he finally became the man she always wanted him to be. With someone else, someone who welcomed the version she once dismissed. She thought she hated him, but the truth is, she hated the version of herself that couldn't love him properly, the version that avoided hard conversations, that fed off attention instead of doing the inner work, that mistook emotional numbness for independence, because love doesn't always die with betrayal. Sometimes it lingers in empty beds, in silent phones, in the parts of yourself that can't forgive the way you left. And that's the thing no one tells you. She thought distance would give her power, that if she stayed cold, he'd come running, beg, plead, try harder to win her back. But silence can be misread, and this time, it was taken as final. He didn't chase her. He accepted what she said as if it had been building inside her for far too long. At first, she felt strong, like she'd finally claimed control over the chaos. But strength isn't found in pretending you feel nothing. It's in facing what hurts, and still choosing to stay present. She hadn't done that. She shut the door with a trembling hand, then locked it not to keep him out, but to stop herself from crawling back. The days passed slowly. Her ego told her he'd call, that no man could walk away without wanting answers. But he didn't, not even once, and that silence, it didn't feel like peace. It felt like punishment. Because now, she had to sit with the weight of everything unsaid. She started checking his socials, first casually, then obsessively. Each photo, a sharp reminder of a life she was no longer part of, and then came her. The woman she always sensed, the one he once told her, was just a friend. Now, clearly not. It wasn't just the photos that hurt. It was the way he looked in them, lighter, present, laughing in a way she hadn't seen in years. He used to look like that, for her, before the distance, before the sarcasm, before the quiet dismissals of everything he tried to offer. She wondered when it shifted. Was it when she stopped replying with warmth? When she started rolling her eyes instead of listening? When she compared him to other men who weren't carrying the weight he was? She didn't cheat with her body, but emotionally, she had already left. And when you abandon someone emotionally, they will eventually look for shelter elsewhere. The worst part wasn't losing him. It was realizing she gave him away, with every cold glance, every withheld word. Every time she rejected his affection because she didn't feel like giving it back. She pushed him away, and someone else caught him on the way down. Now she lays awake next to a man who texts her like a script, compliments her body, but doesn't know the texture of her sadness. He sees her but only on the surface, and she knows now, surface level comfort can't replace soul level connection. She tried to go back. One text, then another, just checking in. Hope you're well. But the replies were short, polite, detached, not the man she remembered, but the one she created through distance and neglect. She couldn't admit it then. But now it was clear. She didn't leave because he was terrible. She left because she was tired of facing herself in his eyes, the guilt, the unspoken resentment, the parts of her that didn't feel worthy of real love anymore. So she punished him instead, made him the problem, because it's easier to leave someone you've already blamed. But regret doesn't show up like guilt. It's quieter. It appears in the small things, like seeing his favorite snack in a store, or smelling the cologne he used to wear. It lives in the pause before you say someone else's name, and the ache that comes when you realize they don't fit the way he did. She thought walking away would set her free, but it only made her aware of how deeply she still cared. And now, the man who once waited at her door stands behind someone else's, and he looks happy. He looks chosen, and she looks back at what she left, and finally sees what it was worth. Because regret doesn't knock. It seeps in, through memories, through stillness, through the sound of his voice in another woman's laughter. And when it does, you realize too late silence wasn't strength. It was surrender.